Thank you, Kamala. And first of all, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So it's still morning in Jamaica, I know. And thank you, Kamala. I must say thanks for giving me this opportunity to be part of this distinguished panel. I feel very honored to be able to do that. So before we get into the discussions, which I'm sure I will learn a lot from, and I'm looking forward to, I think that, yes, the bios were circulated, but I do want to highlight some significant achievements of these three individuals who will be on the panel this morning or this afternoon. I'll start with Tara Manick, who is the Managing Director of Engineering and Clean Technology Limited in Trinidad and Tobago. She is a professional with 20 years experience in electrical and computer engineering. So power to the women, stepping out, stepping out in a non-traditional role. She has a wide breadth of experience in leadership and management experience, including international marketing, business development, and providing energy efficient solutions. She served on several boards and as a member of international bodies as well. She holds multiple degrees. I can't call all degrees. This is really just an abridged version of all of the CVs of the individuals here, including a master's degree, a BSc degree, and an MBA as well. So I'm looking forward to comments from Tanya. So I'll introduce all of the panelists and then we go through with the questions. Michelle, who is from Jamaica, glad to see Michelle here today, is the co-founder and CEO of Honeybun, quite an interesting name, with 40 years experience in business, governance, and manufacturing. Her accomplishments include high-ranking awards, such as Most Influential and Powerful Businesswoman, again, proud to the women, as a founder of the Honeybun Foundation, which is guided by a profound mission statement, and I thought that this was impactful and good enough to be read to the audience here. And the mission statement is creating powerful business models for SMEs and creative industries to become transformational industries for Jamaica's economy. Francis Lewis de Rose among us this morning. He is the Senior Consultant and Director of Risk Consulting Limited, founded in 1993 in Trinidad. As a skills strategist and planner, he has a career spanning over 30 years as a consultant in broad bandwidth in expertise. He has distinguished himself with his pragmatic and data-driven approach with clients to deliver results for those clients. He has served on several boards in a wide range of commercial companies as well. I'm sure you will all realize and recognize the panelist is more than qualified to address the topic of how a non-family director can help the business and perhaps hinder as well. You never know. I might add that part. We heard this morning about some of the traps of the businesses and the fact that the third generation, sometimes they're the ones, well, that ruins the business. They say they start the business, the first generation, the second generation runs the business, and the third generation ruins the business. Firstly, family businesses might appear to be attractive to serve as a director, and as they appear to be less bureaucratic, I think, and I'm sure you guys will expound more on that this morning. But they can implode, as we heard from Yannick. They can implode as well. So could I start with Tara? How can a non-family director help to grow and prevent the third generation from ruining the business? And I'll take that question through each of the panelists.
Okay, when I was looking at this, I was looking at it from my experience and where I am in my business. And so I went through the process of looking at some of the pitfalls. And this is some of the things I would have done at a lockjack. So I went through the process in terms of why some of these family businesses fail. And they were espoused nicely by Rajkumar in terms of, but they were into two main brackets. And the two key brackets were basically in the family context, and in the next context was in the management/governance context. And within the family context, they iterate like family conflicts, different visions between generations, different value, different purposes, succession planning is many forms, for instance, leadership, ownership, and knowledge in terms of business knowledge, financial knowledge, in terms of running the business properly. And then you have in the management context, and this is where a lot of family businesses fail to in terms of strategic planning. Most times a business owner will start off, they have an idea and they get so driven that they forget about all the other aspects of a business in terms of running it properly. Governance challenges, like in terms of what structure to put in place to make sure a company's KPIs and performance and all of these wonderful things are met. Then you have risk management, which is normally an oversight because the risk and the dynamics of the environment is changing so frequently, and COVID was a good example. And then you have the logistics and all of these things that impacted businesses tremendously. And if you weren't on top of these risks, a lot of businesses, well, as we know, a lot of businesses, family-owned businesses collapse. And the banks were just closing accounts on a regular basis by the hundreds, I understand. Trusted advisors, where people can go and get good advice in terms of, as a business owner, and Harvard Business School said it nicely. A lot of business owners, no CEO knows everything. And normally have business owners who has to be the wealth and breadth of knowledge in any business to make it successful. They may have a technical skill or they may have a particular skill that they offer, but in terms of the other skills that are required to successfully run and administrate a business, a lot of these areas, they have some challenges. So lack of trusted advisors, unqualified leaderships, and undefined roles and responsibilities, even within a small business. That is very important to ensure that things don't slip through the cracks and stuff like that. And based on some statistics, it has shown that with the proper use of directors and good directors, a lot of these failures and pitfalls and hard lessons learned can be mitigated or prevented, and the length of time a company takes to grow can be reduced. So the rate of growth can increase with having proper governance structure in place and having proper advisors in place. Based on my experience, what I've seen and what I'm reading about is that as a company evolves, there's something like director succession. For instance, when a company started, having directors on board was a key necessity in meeting compliance needs. And then as the company evolves, that when I say compliance, I mean like a legal requirement to ensure the company is registered and meeting the requirements to a legally registered company. But as the company grows and evolves, and as more family members start taking part in the operations of the business, seeing that dynamics of the board is changing, meaning the board member, the changes are facilitated. The changes that are being made is to accommodate family members who are more active in the business and to help with the ease and administration and operational requirements of the business. And then with further growth, sometimes, and I guess this is the stage I am in, where I'm now at the point of getting trusted, reliable, non-family members and professionals who has been contributing to the success of the business to be part of the board. So for instance, the accountant, you trust them with your finances, you open your books because they are the ones to guide you in terms of your taxes and if there are red flags, what to do and how to manage it and stuff like that. Company lawyer, in the event that, you know, these are the people who know your legal business and stuff like that. And any other person that you may trust in a private capacity, you may wish to legitimize their role as a board member at this time to help with the administration and the guidance and of the business. And then as the business evolves, you see the role of the business, and this is, I'm already thinking to that level, where you may require expertise in the field. So expertise to help with the strategic direction of the company. Sorry, I have a strategic plan, but to get expertise to help guide in that transformation of the company, because they would have been successful in their industry, or they would have been successful in those positions. So they would be in a good position to provide guidance and help in that regard. Now, as with most private family-owned businesses, the concern that I have been hearing is, and what was shared earlier today too, is that family members, they don't like to give up control. They don't want to share confidential information with outsiders. They don't want to go through the formalities of a board meeting, and it's expensive. Now, it being expensive is very true for us, a family-owned business in the early stages, because then your finance is very limited. You may not have the blessings of the financial institutions to help with the growth and the development of the business, etc. So then there are creative ways that one can maybe work around some of these things. For instance, what I had done some bartering of services. So for instance, some of my colleagues who were in marketing, I was tapping into them. I need some guidance here, or some whatever advice you need, you would tap into somebody and you would give freely. Like I would give project management services to some of my friends. So we do some bartering in terms of service offerings and helping to reduce costs. When it comes to paying a director, it is a bit of a challenge. Then what I had done is gotten some business advisors, some people who have been successful in business. And just as a professional will use a mentor, I was using business mentors to help guide in the process. And I also took the opportunity of Arthur Lockjack. They had the SME, the Masters in Management, specializing in SMEs. And that was a very wonderful program for business owners who wanted to put a holistic plan in place to cover all aspects of a business, your financial, your marketing, your internationalization, your globalization, your return on investment, the full works. So that was a lovely program. One of the things though, and that I find that is a bit of a concern is that where people, the issue of giving up control. And I think part of that has to do with some of the owners may not be aware as to some of the mechanisms they can use to help protect themselves in this regard while achieving their objectives. For instance, the bylaws in a company. The bylaws in a company could help put accountability in place to mitigate certain measures while having your confidentiality in place, and how you deal with board members, and if things should go wrong, how you treat with it, etc. So I thought that was important there.
You know, Tara, you are speaking from your heart, and I mean it's a really good example of how a company evolves. You know, in terms of, yes, obviously there was some hesitancy in bringing on independent directors, but you've seen the wisdom of tapping into the expertise that you need now. So it's a fantastic example of how you can actually evolve as a company, because I know there are times when particularly persons don't like to bring in the financial controller, but I think that's the first person they really should bring in is an independent financial controller. So thank you for those comments. I thought that was really from your heart in terms of how you evolved as a company. And thanks
I have a few more points. Well, I learned the hard way too, even though I did management, and even though I had the knowledge, experience is a great, you learn a lot from experience, right? One of the challenges that the board, having external board members can do is where they can separate companies' needs to that of families' needs. So you'll see a lot of family-owned businesses, they mix the family needs with the business needs. So you'll see the financials is getting all muddled. Yeah. And I think having external directors could help with that management, help with guidance in that regard. Another area I think that could be very instrumental is that as a CEO in a small family-owned business, even though if you have a strategic plan and you started off with a strategic plan, that's great. But what ends up happening is that you end up becoming so involved in your daily operation and your tactical issues that you tend to lose sight of the strategy and maintaining that strategy and evolving that strategy while taking into account all the external factors that are coming to play. So me, myself, I have not evolved my my strategic plan in the last 3 years. I've been fighting fires. I've been dealing with COVID. I've been dealing with logistics. I've been expanding, but I still have not renewed that entire strategic plan. Little pieces, yes, but the umbrella plan is there, but still you have not done those things. So those are issues a family-owned business and external directors can play. Now, another thing I saw with respect
Thank
to
you. Tara, wonderful discussion, but I think you can expound later because I want to really get on to the other two panelists. But I'm sure you'll be able to add some more comments as we go along and proceed with the discussion. Michelle, can I bring you in now to share your thoughts on how a non-family director can influence a company, a family-owned company?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me as well. And I just wanted to put a forward in that Honey Bun is a family-owned business. I have 4 children, and we're a public trading company in Jamaica. So we're on the Jamaica Junior Stock Exchange. And since we went on the exchange, we also developed the Honey Bun Foundation, which looks at business models. And so this is very pertinent to me because as the founder, it's important for me to have various opportunities to speak about the foundation work that might help others to improve usually it's about governance within their business. So to address your question, Liz, we have a policy which is about more non-executives than we have executives on our board. And usually the non-executives, and none of our non-executives are family members. So we have maintained that rule throughout our public period. And how that has helped us, because 2 of my children work in the business and they're executives in the business. So myself, my husband, and my 2 children. So that's 4 of us. So only 1 son is a director. So it's 3 family members on the board and 4 independent directors. So how I would respond is that the non-executive directors have allowed the company to maintain a very professional image, both in how people perceive us as shareholders and in how we conduct the business. So one of the pitfalls I found with formulating the board when my husband and I went public was that I found that the board members did not engage the business of family business in their discussion. It was, oh, that's a minor matter. Whereas I think it was a major matter. So Honey Bun fell upon family business governance in one of my mentors, Lawrence Nicholson, who encouraged us to have regular family meetings where we discuss the governance within the family in the business. So what it is that we had to develop rules in the business for the family. And this is called our family constitution. So that was very important for us to be very upfront at the beginning with your non-executive directors that, look, this is an important thing for us. It's not just trying to, I can't find the right word, but don't put it down. It's very important for the succession and the future and the success of the company that you take family matters as reality and encourage us to develop our family constitution or the rules within our business. So this is one thing that I would say to family businesses. When you are developing your directors, make sure it's very clear that you want to have as a part of the discussion, the family constitution within the business. And you will get independent feedback from them if they are required to pitch in and speak about it. So that's one of the things that I believe needs to be addressed from non-family members on the board. So as I said before as well, the non-executive directors also provide a professional image for the company, so that it's not just mother, father, children. You need to have other professionals on your board, and those are usually the non-executives. So that is something I would encourage greatly, because it will give your company the image that you need to have for good governance. The third one that I just want to share is that when you are employing persons, particular professional people, it is good for them to see and know, yes, they see it's a family business, and so they are likened to think it is not as bureaucratic, but they also need to get the sense that your directors are not all family members, so they feel that there's going to be equity when they speak. They know that when they do presentations to the board, that they have independent persons listening on to them. And this is particularly because non-executive directors are normally less emotional than family members. So you have the whole emotional intelligence coming into play with your non-executive directors. So those were just three main points I wanted to share.
I thank you, Michelle. I love those points. Professional image, being, having an independent directors on, interest in the business. I think that's key. You mentioned something that's very close to my heart, because I've always wondered sometimes, sitting on family-owned companies' boards, where persons are coming into the meeting and now opening a package for the meeting, or not even asking a question at the meeting. So the interest in the business, I think, is key. That will help to contribute to the growth of the business. Directors' independence, I think, is something that any team, any staff member of a company would really, really like and appreciate, because they realize that this is not just a family member who might be too emotional or probably too connected to the business to listen to me. But so that's very important. So thank you so much for your 3 points. Could I have Francis jump in here, please?
Oops, hold on. Good morning, everybody. Let me jump straight in. Thank you very much for that, Elizabeth. Let me approach this in a very different direction. First question: when you say independent directors help or don't help a business, what the heck do you mean? Are we talking about, and I'm going to focus on, there are people who do family business consulting. I do not do that. I try to stay as far away from that as I can, because the training and the personality you need to handle the human dimensions of the emotions, I prefer to work on the professional side of the business. Now, that said, I work with a significant number of family businesses, have put together a number of family business boards, including advisory boards. So I will draw on that. The metrics we use for measuring success in business are relatively simple. Is the business growing or is it not? Is it profitable or is it not? What are its sales? What are its margins? And what is its profitability? The focus of your board, yes, it can be strategic. And strategic is one of those very misused words. I'll come back to that in a minute. But it really is about positioning the business competitively in a market. You have a set of family simidimi. You have a set of bacchanal in the family. There are counselors you can go to for that. That is not the purpose of the board. The board's purpose is the business. So businesses that I have worked on, family businesses, and I'm indebted to my friend Anevra Hal. She is one of the premier family business consultants in the region. We were serving on the board. She was the chairman. The person who had started the business was murdered. And she called me one night and said, Francis, we can't let this business go through. will you serve on a board? I say, yeah, man. So off we go. And in the course of the business, somebody started to talk about, well, this is the legacy of. And I never forget, Annette jumped straight in and said, let me tell you something. The man's life was his legacy. Maybe his children is his legacy, not the business. The business is something that comes, it goes, it can live, it can die. The business will stand on its own 2 feet as a business. The moment we start to conflate, well, the success of the business of granddad is that the business has to continue, not a very good point for starting on how to carry a business forward. So if I may, let me offer a couple quick thoughts on why bother, but then something else that I hope will be a little bit more provocative. What do independent directors bring to a board, right? Assuming that you want this business to do better than if you did not have a board. One is that they can bring a degree of objectivity. They have bias, but it's the same bias as the family. They can bring focus, especially if it's a business focus. They need to insist, or they can insist on a degree of transparency and a better assessment of risk. And they can sometimes help in delivering difficult messages that family members have telling somebody else. There's a business very well known in Trinidad and Tobago where in the family, the discussion between the father and the mother was which of the sons would succeed in the business. Given that in the culture, primogeniture was what typically operated. They realized that son number 1 was perhaps less suited to head the business, and they named son number 1 head of family and son number 2 head of business. And that was a tricky thing, and they used a superb outside director to help ease that decision through. Directors can bring perspective. It could help boards make better decisions. It could help change and transition, which is often difficult. It can help to vent, because sometimes even owners need to vent. Managing directors need a place to go and cuss, good and proper. It could point to people saying, listen, the job is no bigger than you. You need to develop professionally. So there are a list of reasons which we can easily send through, and any reasonable web search will give it to you. Ask yourself a different question. And these are questions that have been asked of me when I try to put together a board. Why would anybody want to serve on your board? Quite frankly, the board fees, probably not very much, if there are at all. And if the person is your friend and is passionate about your business like you, and is really trying to be a friend to you, the issue is not cost. So here are the questions. First, and these are the questions that I've been asked over time. Francis, are they ready? Because not every company or every board is ready for this kind of transition. Second question, are you sure I'm the right kind of director for this business? Of the business, let's meet, usually over a meal, and let me assess if the person that we are giving advice to or governance of, will they listen? If they're not going to listen, they'll waste my time. How are we going to deal with legal liability? I have had a number of instances where people say, I will serve on an advisory board, but I'm not serving on the legal board because this business could cause a legal liability that I can't handle and they can't handle. So here what, I'll give advice, but I really don't want to take on, under company law, the legal liability. The people that you want to serve may not be your friends. You may not know them. They would typically be persons who have worked in business for a reasonably extended period of time. I serve on an advisory board, and the collective experience of the 3 directors that serve on the board with the managing director is over 100 years. That's hard-won experience. And the directors are very conscious of reputational risk. In other words, don't cause me to serve on a board and then I turn around and look like a jackass. So that it is not that the company or the owners have to listen to everything or take on everything, but they have to genuinely listen. There has to be genuine discourse and discussion. And people are very conscious, particularly if you're in your 60s, as some of these directors are, that after putting in 40 years of tremendous work, that I want to look stupid. And the other concern is how much time will it take? Not that people are trying to be constrained with time, but they are very concerned with, don't have the same piece of old talk come over and over and over again. I mean, if we're discussing something, we're dealing with it and let us move on. So if you're not prepared to move on, put it in the parking lot and we will deal with it. The last point I want to just deal with is the issue of strategic. It's a very much used word. And let me tell you how we tend to interpret it. And there are many interpretations. So this is one. We view strategic as transformation. So think of strategic as with a big capital S or a lowercase s. In a lowercase s, you're talking about the mechanisms you use for achieving your goals. With the very large S, you're talking about alignment to the market and how, given the pending changes of the market over the next 5 to 10 years, what will happen with this business, whether even if it will survive. With that, let me end this short and I hope sufficiently provocative discourse and open it up, pass it back to you, Liz, and open it up for questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Francis. Yeah, objectivity, focus, transparency, ensuring that you have somebody. I think that's very key, that will probably ask the hard questions and probably be able to transmit those decisions that may be unpopular or may tend to be the persons don't want to do it because they're so connected to the business. So thank you so much. I know Michelle was putting her hands up.
Yes.
So,
I wanted to thank Francis so much for making that observation and from your frank discussion. And just to say that I think that it is very important, and there's probably a thin line whether the directors discuss family business at all. But I think it is something that should not be discussed, say, within the discussions on the business. You're quite right, but they should encourage it to happen because it keeps the family members in the business healthy. So I think they should encourage it, but not necessarily be involved, except the family feels they would like one of them to be involved.
all right, thank you. I know Kamala had a question. Kamala, you want to unmute and ask your question and direct it to, I guess, perhaps it's Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle in particular, I was interested to understand because especially coming out of this morning's presentation with Holic and the contribution Marlon had made in terms of family-owned businesses listing on the stock exchange. So I wondered your experience in particular, what percentage of control you have and how did you list?
Well, I heard when you spoke about it earlier, Kamala, and it did trigger some thoughts in my own mind. And we have, as a family, 80%. That's what the limit is in the junior stock exchange. But we are often talking more with various strategic partners about how else to grow the business strategically. So I am not disappointed that we own 80% because what it has done is it has allowed us to wet our feet and to understand more. I wouldn't have wanted to go in with less ownership while I learned the rules of the game. So I'm glad for this, and I'm prepared to develop new strategies to grow the business and own less, definitely.
Thank you. Tara, I know that, back to you, I know that as a CEO and as a business that has evolved over the years, how do you manage separating the role of being a CEO, being a shareholder, probably being the major shareholder, and the manager of the business? How do you find challenges in that? Could you share some of your own personal experiences and how you have dealt with separating your role as shareholder, managing director, and with management?
I like to keep it simple. So with respect to my role as shareholder, I like to have my accounting simple. So this belongs to the business. This is my salary when the month comes. This is the dividends I gain at the end of whenever. So I don't like to model it at all. So my personal affairs are addressed in my personal space, my financial space, and my business affairs are kept separately. So I have strict records. I have strict records in terms of what is done within the business space and what is done in that space there. So I don't model those things at all. From a time management standpoint, I also try to keep separation because it's so easy for a business owner to be living 24/7 their business. So again, I have put certain measures in place because I have been a workaholic as a professional person working 24/7 all over the world, doing this, doing that. And it compromises you at some point, health-wise, family-wise, and a number of different areas. So as a rule in the business, so I've made sure and put those measures in place. So I have my work in place, and unless something is an emergency, it is done within a certain period of time. And I have my staff also to make sure they get their healthy measures in place. So I try to keep things very separate to make sure for the sustainability for the future, the company is in a healthy space, the finances in a healthy space. I'm not too sure if I answered your question fully though.
Yes, no, the thing is, what I was looking at is managing the business. Do you have independent managers that are managing your business?
I do have independent people, yes. But I do have
Okay.
family members too, like my husband. So he will have his he has a separate business, but I do use him as a sounding board. But he's also a member of the board, so I use him as a sounding board based on his experience. But I do have independent people too in the business to challenge me. So I don't have a yes. I don't have a yes culture, and I made sure and tell everybody, I don't want you to tell me to give me the answer I want to hear. I want you to tell me, give me your perspective and we will discuss it. So no yes culture.
That's exactly what I really wanted to bring out because, you know, as the major shareholder in the business, you might be tempted to be more of a ruler as against a leader.
No. I learned that the hard way too within our business context, because as a professional too, you have seen managers, you have seen employees so fearful to go and tell a manager or CEO something, and that ends up biting the company in some form or fashion or causing some ripple effect somewhere down the line. So those are simple little rules I put in the business to ensure we don't end up there.
Like that. I know, Francis, you are involved in some aspects of coaching. So I'm wondering, because I've seen, seen and experienced many privately owned and family owned businesses don't really invest in their managers, their CEOs in terms of training and development. What has been your experience over the years in terms of that investment? Because I think if you want your business to grow from a professional perspective, you need to keep your managers abreast of what is happening globally, regionally, in terms of them growing as well. Because if they grow, the business will grow, and ultimately the profit lines will actually go up. So any thoughts on how your experience has been?
Well, I'll start with an assumption of growth. There are many businesses that don't want that. There are many businesses who don't want to grow. The owner doesn't want to grow. I'll give you an example. There was a business that I was pitching to as a consultant. And we were talking about what he could do and how he could move things forward, etc. And at the end of it, now this is a man in his 50s. He says to me, but Francis, that's something like plenty work. I say, but yes, look at the opportunity, look at the potential. You could move it into the Caribbean, into the region and beyond. And you say, yeah, but here, I have a house in Goodwood Park. In Trinidad and Tobago, Goodwood Park is seen as a place where very wealthy people live. My wife and I both have Mercedes-Benz. They are less than 3 years old each. I have 3 children. I put all of them through school and all of them have a successful career. I have a boat. We go down the islands, have another home down the island. You say, why you want to take that on for? Why? You want to send me back to when I was 20 and 30, working 12 and more hours a day to grow a business? I'm very happy where it is. We make this a corporate assumption that people want to grow, they want their employees to grow. Yeah. There are any number of businesses where that is simply not true. So that I'd say it has to start with, what do you want for this business? I think Michelle is absolutely right. There are 2 fields of endeavor. there's a family, there's the business. Each needs its own rules. The rules for the family is the Family Business Council. That is the current thinking, the current consulting research on it. Any number of schools have done that. And you establish rules for their family. For instance, do you hire in-laws? How much do you pay family members versus non-family members? It came up in one business, the first son of one of the founders was getting married, and he wanted to charge the business for the wedding, which was quite a healthy sum. And to which other family members said, you're wealthy enough, you fund the wedding yourself. We're funding that. That is not a business expense. Now, these are hard things to deal with, but what a good family business advisor can do is help you lay out the rules of the game. So when it comes to making those kinds of decisions, you could blow apart the rules, but you can say, okay, these are the rules, let's find a way to work within these rules. The rules on the business is we have to compete in a marketplace where somebody, if we're successful, is trying to eat our lunch. And we have to focus all the energy and effort we have of how to be competitive, how to get the best people. And if we don't do the right thing by our people, our suppliers, and certainly our customers, we ain't gonna have a business for very long. So regardless of a lot of relationships, which is lovely, it is the business has to have a fundamental reason for it. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yes, yes, you have answered.
About if they want that or not.
That's right.
If they do, there is the wealth of expertise in our region is awesome. There are people out there who can help you. But hello, nobody can help you if you don't want to be helped.
Absolutely.
And you have to find the courage to go and say, oh God, please, will you help me, please? And there are people out there who will.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I know that, there was a typical example. I sit on this board, and one of the questions, reviewing the finances, because I was on the audit committee, reviewing the finances, and one of the shareholders was in the room, and I said, does this make sense? Is this business a going concern? And he was really upset. He was really upset because that's his pet business. That is one of the businesses that he loves, even though it's not making money, it's not going down. And he said, Liz, we have a strategic plan. I said, okay, can I see the strategic plan? Because when I look at the finances, it doesn't make business sense really to continue this business because you're pumping more money into the business and you're not really seeing the returns of the business. But you know what? They had some other directors, independent directors there, and I said, this is right. That is the key question we need to ask ourselves. You need to ask those harsh questions. You need to be practical in terms of the responses. All right, so let's open it. Oh, so Michelle
if I may just reinforce what you're saying there. I was on the executive board of a bank, and there was a particular project that cost overruns. The thing was not going well. And the question came up, why are we supporting this? So this is a non-family business, right? And the question came up. And the outside directors who had joined recently said, listen, you have to close this thing down. And to which one of the people who was part of the decision to make the investment said, but look at the sunk cost. And I offer this as a phrase to you and to others. The outside director uttered the immortal words, a sunk cost is only sunk to the sunky. I have no skin in that game. Get rid of it. And that ability to say get rid of it and stand apart from it, it's not just a family business issue. It happens in a lot of businesses where people get emotionally tied because their ego is involved in the decision. And they don't want to look bad, which I understand. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes they're emotional because I remembered one of the family members because we usually have a board dinner at the end of all of the board meetings. And he said to me, Liz, you hit it on the wrong spot. That's what I didn't realize that was his catalyst. But I'm glad. That is why we have people like you on the board, because we want them to ask those, you want directors to ask those hard questions that we perhaps wouldn't want to ask because we're a family member. So the independence of having a non-family director, I think really augurs well for asking those hard questions and not feeling bad, not feeling that, okay, you've offended anybody because you're walking away. The family persons have to actually deal with that. Michelle, Michelle had a question.
Yes, it was in the chat. I was just asking, how does one go about finding these family consultants? Because I've been trying to find them in Jamaica, and I'm lucky I have a mentor and a good friend who does it, but I don't know how to advise other family. Is it something in Trinidad that is easily found, but not necessarily in Jamaica?
Well, I can tell you my own personal experience in terms of me being asked to serve on the various boards. Most of the times I was recommended, but the board in Belize, I had met the owner of the company. Didn't realize that he had owned 16 companies in Belize. The insurance company was one of the companies. I'd met him like 10 years before, very briefly, probably like 3 or 4 minutes in an office, and he was trying to sell us the concept of selling US health insurance in Guyana. And I'm like, that is not, we now starting, it's not going to swing here. We don't have the capacity, the persons don't have the disposable income to buy that. Not right now. Very briefly. But he said to me, he called me 10 years later to say, Liz, I'm buying a life insurance company and I need for you to serve on the board. So I'm thinking, really, okay, I remembered him briefly having that brief encounter. And he said that he really wanted me to serve on the board. So he recognized, he said to me, even though he felt that I was he still say that today, you were extremely dismissive and your husband was much nicer than you. Because he went to meet my husband at another insurance company. So I'm like, Brian, who works with you now? But not my husband. I work with you. But you tend to sometimes run into persons at unexpected moments and you keep their names. You get references from persons. People refer me because they know I'm not afraid to speak out. And, I remember asking to serve on the government board. And I'm like, I'm not into politics. The minister calls me and I say, I'm not into politics. No. We're looking for a strong female and we're looking for somebody for the private sector. Like, okay, I'm supposed to fit that bill. All right. So I don't know if there's any other
if I could just respond to
Trinidad, yeah.
Michelle, if I may just respond to you. Girl, you just keep your eyes and ears open to people. And you call them and you ask them. I mean, look at the people on this morning. You think if you call Holick and say, hey, Holick, I'm looking for an independent director, help me now. Angela Lilloy, whose picture is right up there. Kamla, me. Any number of people you could call who the network across the region is tremendous. It ain't that big to start with. And if you are clear on what you're looking for, and sometimes you're not clear, but in the conversation with people, you become clearer. Names surface, and then, it's the courage to call them and say, listen, I am so-and-so, and your name was recommended to me. Let's have a cup of tea. And if it's a distance, a cup of tea at a distance. And you find it, your business needs this. It's part of your job as the owner of the business to find these people.
Well, I always consider us very lucky because we have someone, but when I start to speak with other SMEs, I don't know who to refer them to. So I was just wondering if this was a real profession where people actually do consulting for family business. And I'm not necessarily talking about a director. I'm talking about something who might help a family, because we have so many families with difficult situations. And the problem with them, and I know that I am trying to work through the foundation to engage more family businesses in corporate governance and to have more family meetings and develop family constitutions. But the problem is they won't join an association because they want to keep their family business private.
And entirely right. The number of people that I would recommend as a family business consultant would be on less than one hand.
Right.
There are people in whom I have utmost trust in their integrity and their competence, that they understand the chemistry and the sensitivity in family businesses, and they're prepared to take the time, if the business is prepared to take the time. So a good friend of mine would say, before I take on the assignment, I will interview every single family member and their spouses, and if they have adult children, their adult children. Then we will work out which way to go. And here, what you're paying for that, right? And if you don't want it at the end of it, that's okay. But understand, if you're serious, because why bother? The bothering is that you don't want the family to fracture. The families fracture sometimes because of difficulties, but more often than not because of success. You see, when the money starts to flow,
Yes.
everybody has an idea on how it should be spent. If you don't set up the rules of the game and have someone who can guide you, you could end up having great business success and terrible family success.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I have noticed is that if the family business is not there and the structure is not there and the guidance, well, if the structure is there and the focus is not there, this is where the different family members can all have brilliant ideas to do this and to do that, and they want to go in different directions, and then things can get all muddled. So having the focus and having a plan as to where the business should go, and when money starts to flow, then you make sure that money flows in the direction to achieve the what you set out to achieve, and to evolve and grow in that direction. Because even me myself, and when the business started to grow, there are so many different areas the business could evolve, because opportunities keeps on presenting itself. You can grow in this area and this opportunity services and this manufacturer approached you and this area for growth, etc. And even the banks will approach you to do X, Y, and Z. You'll start getting financial opportunities too. The question is, what is appropriate for the business at the time in question? So to manage all of those things, you have to remain focused. Otherwise, a lot of brilliant ideas and resources and opportunities will present itself that will take you in many different directions.
And Tara, sometimes you're faced with the unfortunate reality. No, I'm saying sometimes you're faced with the unfortunate reality that the time for this business has passed. Let us have a suitable burial.
That's true.
Break it up.
That is correct.
Distribute the resources and let people take this thing forward.
And that is correct.
Nothing is guaranteed forever. And while we, I suppose, aspire to some degree of immortality, recognizing immortality, our business is not the place to do it. I don't think it is. And the best businesses recognize that.
I wanted to add something. You know, as part of the Honeybun Foundation mission to develop business models, one of the business models we're working on developing is to develop a template for a family constitution, so that I heard you mention something about in-laws in the business. So there are some common discussions that families have that we need to develop a template, so that when you come to that, you have a drop down and you can choose A, B, C, or make up your new one. But I believe that that is what is necessary. And I know eventually we will work on one, because that is part of our mission to develop these models. And if we could do that for family businesses, we believe that it would be a great help to SMEs, because many of them are family businesses that are struggling because they don't understand how the family works with the business. Like we've said before, the money is mixed up. This one wants that car, that one wants that car. So we believe that there is value in developing that model.
The research suggests, Michelle, that may be a useful starting point, but it will not achieve what you want to achieve. The purpose is not the drop-down box and choosing. The purpose is a very deep discussion, and sometimes it can get very heated over years. Oh, what does it mean when you say we're not paying family members more than other people in the business, or this is how we're going to deal with in-laws, or this is how we're going to deal with divorce? Those issues is not a drop-down box.
But you have to be able to start somewhere, the discussion.
That's right. Yes.
So you have whoever is leading the process will have to recognize, or you leave out the drop down altogether. But we've had heated discussions in our family about some of these very basic things. You don't employ in-laws, but can you contract them to do a job?
And I want to support, I mean, Michelle, your point is the family constitution is very important, because it really guides a family business in terms of who gets involved in the business at what time, or if they should get involved in the business at all. And
education.
That sets out the parameters, exactly, and that sets out the parameters too. So for instance, if a man has two sons and both of them, they already part of the business in different roles, and they are married, should their wife be part of the business? But if you have a constitution and the constitution says, hey, no in-laws are to be part of this business, then they already know up front, hey, listen, I'm not part of this business. I have to find my way, get my income on the outside, or live off my husband's salary, or whatever the case might be. And then also going back to your first point, Francis, you talk about if a business should continue or not to the next generation. And that's another very important point, because you have family businesses, and while the head or the founder may have done a wonderful job in starting and creating a nice, successful business, you realize the kids, they may already be infighting, starting because what they may start seeing the benefit of the wealth and the ownership of it. Two, you may realize, hey, listen, these two kids, they're not, and that's, I'm just using two as an arbitrary number, right? It could be whatever. You may realize, hey, these kids, they're not fit mentally, or they don't have the capacity to take this business to the next generation. So then the question is, how do you, as an owner, what do you do? Do you still continue handing the business down to a second generation, knowing that fully well it will not continue growing and might go there and might just go downwards, so it might eventually end up in failure? Or do you get external management? So so how do you treat with those things? You know, it's like, do you have some policy that says,
we're having a really great conversation here, but you know, I would like to just jumping a bit and ask both Michelle and Tara, you're the CEO of your company. How are you planning succession? Because that has always been a very, very sticky thing with some of the family-owned businesses that I have served in that I remember coming up with a succession plan and took it to the board, and one of the owners, Major Hero, was like, Liz, where are you going with that? Like, this is when, if anything happens to this person who happens to be his wife, one of the other family members, you gotta make, what kind of
my response to that is, don't plan on it being one of the children. Just plan on it being the most successful person for the job. And because you're the owner of the business, you may want it to be one of your children. So groom them, prepare them, make them be the most eligible one. You have time. And after that, if they're not ready, you pick an outsider and you let them continue in the business in another capacity.
All right. If you can share a bit about Honey Bun. I saw Kamala put that question in before we come to Tara.
Yes, it's a bakery in Honey Bun. It's a bakery. We employ over 400 people in sales and distribution.
Wow, it's a big company.
Yes.
Oh, okay. It is a bakery.
My company is a baby company. It's about 5 years old and has been growing rapidly, making some headways locally, and fingers crossed it will continue to grow nicely. My approach to the future is along the path that you have taken, Michelle, to get it on the stock exchange and eventually to hand over to some competent management, to get a competent management team to take control. I don't see myself running the business maybe more than the next 10 years, but I will get it to a point that will get it a place to hand over. And fingers crossed from the stock exchange, you will increase capital and you'll continue to grow and continue to expand out into the region, etc. Into the region.
Okay,
so,
great, thanks.
And yeah. I've already, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, finish.
No, and I've already started looking at the requirements to put it on the stock exchange.
Okay, interesting.
We shall see how that evolves.
Correct. Francis, any thoughts on succession planning in family-owned businesses, especially if the family-owned person is actually the CEO? Any thoughts on your experience? What your experience has been so far?
First of all, your life is not going to be defined solely by the business. I entirely agree with Tara. You put what you can in place, and to some degree, you have to trust to the future and to the organization. Some companies, most of the companies in the region are going to fail. That's just the statistics of it. That's like saying of businesses that start up, the success rate is somewhere between 10 to 15%. And that's a worldwide statistic. The flip side of that statistic is businesses that succeed on their third try, the success rate is close to 90%. So it says that there are some things we can't teach in school. They have to be learned
Exactly.
experientially. The going and putting a business or preparing a business for listing on the stock exchange, junior or otherwise, is extremely good because it introduces a discipline and a process to the business. But as Michelle found out, you need to put in place family governance rules. And the very best businesses that have succeeded over 100 or more years, I think the business with the greatest history of that is well over 1,000 years, a hotel in Japan, is that what you do is you separate ownership from control. So the family continues to derive the benefits through dividends of the business, and they may control it through a board. So you look at any Volkswagen, Ford, any number of very large companies, they have worked out how to keep family out of the business unless they're competent and go through the rungs to achieve it on their own merit. And let the business live. And if it continues to have relevance, it will live. It will be competitive. And you're prepared.
Yep.
And I support
You
it.
know, I can share my own experience in the company, the family-owned business that I'm involved in, is that the owner, the founder of the business, before he died, he brought in a set of consultants, and he recognized, and he took advice from the consultants to make sure that, because it's about 16 companies, and he said the advice of the consultant is that make the CEOs of every company independent. Just bring in experts to run the business. You provide, develop an advisory council. You sit on the board and see how it goes. Fortunately, it has evolved very well because for every business, the CEO is somebody who is not a family member. What they do, the third generation is coming in now, and they are assuming positions like perhaps the specific area, may have studied in a specific area. If they're interested, if they're not interested, the second generation is, you're not interested in this business, okay, go off and do whatever you want to do. You got to be interested in the business. It is not a fallback. It is not a fallback. It is not a given. You come out of university and you get a position in that business. And I think it's really working for them because you have to earn a right in that business. You're not special any more than anybody else. You're not special. And that has really worked for the company because they do have, and now they're moving to have independent chairs as well. I was the first, and the first female as well. It was, kind of like shattering a glass ceiling or marble ceiling, as you want to put it, But they made that step because they felt that they wanted somebody who was an expert, somebody who would bring something to the table and to take the company to the next level. That was their choice. Like, we wanted this company to move to the next level because it was the most senior person in the company who recruited me, by the way. He was the chair of the company. And I always remember him saying, I'm not going to hand this over to anybody else. If you're the person, because I think you were here from the start and you're the best person to take us to the next level. So that is working really well. Tara, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I just said I like that idea. I mean, in such case, you can easily fire a non-family member CEO. You can get rid of a CEO is not performing. You can remove it. When the CEO is a family member, it becomes a family-related issue. And then a lot of infighting and family feud and all these things take place. So that, and that's one of the reasons why eventually I want to remove myself so I can be more strategic, more advisory, and more chat in the company forward rather than being tactical and being, operational in the business. So then I can oversee and lead. And secondly, when a family member tells you they're not interested in the business, they may be interested in the future with the financial benefits, but they're not interested in running the business. And my daughter has made it categorically clear already. I have one daughter, and she has made it categorically clear that she's not interested in engineering. She's not interested in my business. I know she likes she benefits from it, but so taking that into account, if she changes her mind in the future, well, great. If not, well, I'm putting my plan in place to ensure there's continuity, there's survivability, there's success, and we see what happens thereafter. But I
Right,
believe
thank
in.
you. Yeah,
No,
thank you
I
so
would
much.
offer two very quick thoughts. There is a very large European fragrance company. Michelle, you'd like this. Part of their family council rules is that no family member will be considered for employment in the business unless they have worked successfully outside with business for at least 10 years.
Yes,
And that's
that's
another
a very
good point.
important
When
point.
an opening comes up, you can apply and you'll be treated like others. And if all else comes out equal, then they can hire a family member. That's the first thing. The
Yeah.
second is we use this thing of families don't like, or the owners don't like giving up control. My experience, like Marlon's, is not, sorry, I was chair of the Trinidad and Tobago's Security and Exchange Commission. For a while, I served as a commissioner for a number of years. The issue is not control, you know. The issue is they want accountability. There's a certain personality type that pushes through very hard to start a business. And once they've started it, as we saw with a famous Caribbean conglomerate that crashed, they believe they could walk on water. They don't want to be accountable to anybody. So, and they say, well, I don't want to give up control. It's not about control. You know what? You don't want to have to answer and explain why you're making the decisions you're making. And at some point, a lot of people are giving you advice. Your bankers, your investors, your suppliers. This is not, a business is part of an ecosystem. And the other members of the ecosystem, if they depend on your business, have a strong and vested interest in your continuance and your success. And if you ask them, they more often than not will give you advice, obliquely, because they don't want to vex you. They don't want to upset you. But at the same time, this is not something that's so far and distant. If you're not willing to listen, then I'm not sure what to tell you. You'll be successful for a while.
Exactly.
And maybe not after that.
Another area I think that is key, and this is specifically to Michelle and Tara, is compensation for directors. Because while I think that there are a lot of persons who are available to serve on boards and who are committed and who will be loyal and committed and probably read all the board papers, ask all the right questions, there are times when compensation, persons decide, well, this is really a lot of my time is being invested. And perhaps because I'm not necessarily interested in utilizing my time in an effort where I'm not properly compensated. What are your views on board compensation for, you know, but in your own companies? I mean, what are your views on that, and how do you value that as an owner of a business? Tara, you want to go first?
Okay. Yeah. At this time, as I said, I'm in the process of transitioning to get non-family members on the board, and the reason for that is because I'm paying for the service already. I'm paying for legal service, I'm paying for financial services, and I'm paying for, well, in some instances, technical services, and these things are all being done in isolation, right? So the accountant is here, the lawyer is here, the technical is here. So why not? Yes, you pay them, you continue paying them, but you can work something out such that it could be some benefit that they can. I mean, not all the time you have to pay someone financially. There could be some perk they can get from the business, so there could be some continued business they can get. So like for the accountant, I'm just saying, he has been getting all my business. I have already laid out a plan. So as part of that, now the next step is to have him on the board, and there's a consultancy fee. It's like it's a consultancy fee you're paying him, right? Yeah. So that is in the making. So you're getting a consultancy fee. I was paying you separately for consultancy fee. Now if the consultancy fee is coming within this context. Okay. And likewise for the legal, and then for the technical, well, the technical, that person gets some perks in terms of traveling to go help me make some decisions. for conferences and stuff. Last week you came back from one. So help with the foresight, help with the future planning, help with the selection. I hope I was able to answer based on my current.
Yeah. I know
Yeah, let
Mitchell
me
has-
just,
Mitchell
yeah,
has
let
to
me
go in
just,
5 minutes. Yeah.
right. Let me just add my quick response. I find that when you as a business owner are connected with the purpose that you're in business for, it helps a lot to attract other people who share your vision and your purpose. So to me, there's more than just compensation when you join a company or a board. So some of our board members are not there because of the compensation. They're there because they believe in some of the things we believe in. And that's one thing I could speak forever about. I remember when we got our first board of the advisors, this was before we went public, many years before, we had a friend of my husband who was running a successful business join us. And we had another business consultant join us. But a major part of the compensation was we provided a really nice lunch setting for them. And this was when we just didn't have enough. And they looked forward to coming to that board meeting or that advisor meeting for years. So, you know, purpose is one, when they're connected with what you want to achieve is critical. And the other one is that you have to find different ways to compensate people. So with that, I do have to go, Liz.
I
I'm
shall
sorry.
try that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Louise.
People love food.
And you're right. So
Caribbean
nice
people.
trip.
Okay.